Okay, so you're a content creator or you're in marketing, you're making advertising, you're trying to figure out what is going to make this video or this social post successful. Or more relevantly, you are looking at a post that someone else has made or that you have made, and you are saying, what made this successful? This video is about discussing some of the core concepts as to what makes stuff actually work on the internet, shareable, go out, and get to a lot of people and get a lot of impressions. This question was brought to us by Noctopus, who is in the Discord mastermind. Noctopus says, are there any tips or things to look out for when you have a popular social media post, or should you keep making content as usual? It happened to me about 4 times this year that TikToks or tweets have blown up and caused significant growth surges. It is super cool, but I don't know if I'm missing any opportunities to engage with them further, or should I try to self-examine these posts to see what might be working in these areas or what might not be working in these newer ones? Great. This is a super good question. Yes, you should be introspective on your posts and your videos that do well. What I have found with a lot of different creators is that they will have these big bangers, and especially new creators. Actually, this is worth the whole price of the video in of itself. A lot of new creators will get, let's say that they make like 15 to 20 YouTube videos. Keep in mind that I'm using YouTube as a general idea, but this is true for pretty much every platform or any kind of marketing that you're doing. So whether you're a brand or whatever is still relevant. Let's say they make like 15 YouTube videos. They'll have one that gets like 30,000 views, and they'll take away from that, okay, I need to do that exact thing, or I need to stay on that topic, and their whole channel might become about that because they said, if that works, then I need to do more of this. So you'll start to see, like a channel I was working with on a consulting thing a couple weeks ago had a really successful channel that was a game video guide, and then made a lot of videos that didn't work as well regarding that particular topic. Now, I think a lot of people, they look at the titles and the topics of a video or the topic of a post or the thing they're actually advertising, and they say that's what made it successful. But in this video, we're going to discuss what actually makes it successful to answer Noctopus's question. Okay, and we're going to do that by going into a couple of areas. So I want to differentiate between 2 forms of communication, just because I think that covering these 2 forms of communication is going to kind of cover everything that you want to consider here, okay? And then they're going to consider some general things. Some of these just go into video, and some of them go into general things. So instead of thinking about a thing that you are advertising as, now you could be advertising a video to get more views, you could be advertising a post to get more stuff on Twitter, you could be advertising a product, whatever. Instead of thinking about the topic, I want you to think about the psychology of your viewer, and I want you to think about the psychology of your impression. What do I mean by that? Impression being you have impressed upon me one time. I have impressed upon you one time. This video right now that you are watching is 1 impression upon you. If you go see a tweet, that's 2 impressions. If you go see a post from me I made on Patreon, that's another 3. That's 3 now. Every impression should evoke a certain psychology that you are aware of before you make that post. Every viewer that you have on your content or on your ad or on your sale should be getting something from you that you are aware you are communicating before you make that thing. Okay? So you have built this idea out in your head of what you want them to get out of you, your impression, and your sense as them as a viewer. For example, when somebody engages with me, I want you to know immediately that I am an expert at marketing, and that when I discuss these topics, you're going to get an in-depth, empirically backed, evidence-based topic that is a deep think about how advertising and marketing really works, and you are going to get something actionable that you can take away from this, and your response should be, cool, this is something that I really am impressed by from an educational sense, and I'm getting a lot out of that. If I've made that impression upon you, I've succeeded. And it takes a lot of work to do that, but that's my vision. Your impression you may want to make upon somebody else might be entertainment. It might be, I want somebody to laugh their ass off at what I'm doing, right? That's a really different impression to make, but it's just as important as what I just said. The impression I want to make as an expert educationalist, right? But you might have an impression you want to make as an expert in a particular field, as a product that does X, as a advertisement that conveys Y, or a person that is just funny as hell, right? Like you might want to convey, I want you to be, I play first person shooters only, and I want you to see that this is the best gameplay there can be. Or I am an entertainer and I want people to laugh super hard. Okay, so that's like the psychology. You want to build that first, okay? And then we're going to talk about how to shape that psychology to be successful in line with Noctopus's question. Okay, so let's start talking about some specifics. So the first thing is, let's talk about reach. So who can access this topic? So this could be a post, this could be a video, this could be a product, right? How accessible is it to them? Okay, so there's a lot to cover just in this idea. Who can access this topic? Meaning, how many people out of the 7 billion people on Earth are available to receive this, right? Now, that's a multi-layered question because it's, first of all, we have to just talk about infrastructure. Like, how many people in the world are going to physically or mentally be able to see this? So if I make a post on Twitter, I've got, my pool goes immediately from 7 billion, right, down to 380 million. So that's a pretty big jump, right? All of a sudden, I am not able to access the majority of people on Earth, okay? And that might sound like, yo, Devin, like that's a kind of ridiculous thing. But this is the first layer we're trying to think about. And let me give you an example of why this matters. So Mr. Beast's Squid Game video had 6.1 billion with a B impressions, okay? That means that basically like 1 in 3 people on Earth saw about that or were impressed upon by that video, right? So in terms of reach, Mr. Beast, Jimmy, has started at the highest level of reach, and he has, through a amazing, this is one of the reasons why I often talk favorably of YouTube, because this YouTube is so powerful at reaching so many people, right? That at the highest layer, it can access a very high level of people. So first of all, who even has the infrastructure to receive this? So now, if you start, you'll start seeing why this is important if we start layering down, okay? So let's say that now, out of the 380 million people, because I'm making a tweet, I now make a tweet post about Twitch. And I'm going to talk about the news that's happening on Twitch. Well, now my post goes down to maybe 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, 5 million. Like, how many people are really interested in that particular topic, right? And so my engagement, my chance of engagement goes quite far down, okay? And I want to share a meme with you to kind of give you an example of what can give you a incredible amount of impressions just by accessibility, okay? So just to give an example here, this tweet that I'm going to pull up right here, after I close like all my DMs and everything, it reads, "Free for a quick call, easier to explain on the phone," okay? And it has a picture of Ben Affleck looking very stressed and smoking. 40K retweets, 5,000 quote tweets, 2,480,000 likes. Why did this tweet do so well? To a person who like doesn't have that big of a following, 15,000 followers, right? Why this tweet do so well? Because at the highest layer of Twitter, everybody can vibe with this. How many times have you been in a meeting or you've been working at a company, somebody calls you up and says, can we, or somebody DMs you and says, can we do a quick call? And you're like, okay, I was really hoping to play Dark Tide today, right? Like that kind of mindset. This is the example of a post that has a high potential for reach because everybody can kind of identify with the theme of it. Okay, so but let's like talk about this a little bit further, right? You don't need everyone to in reach, okay? Because especially if you're selling an exclusive product, you may just need 5 or 10 people to respond to that. So for me, for example, what my company, Novo, represents brands. So I need one brand to say to me, you guys are the people we want to advertise with, and we're going to give you a budget of XYZ to do it. And now I might need 5 to 10 clients for the year to turn over $15 to $20 million in my agency, right? So like I'm an example of this reach concept that I'm actually deliberately not trying to make things that are accessible to huge amounts of people. And one of the mistakes that people make as influencers and as brands, frankly, is they try to go too high and they try to reach everyone because they assume my customers and my audience, bigger is better. More people that hear about me is better. And so if I get more people, I'll get more sales or I'll get more conversions, I'll get more views. But that is not necessarily true. And the problem is that the forest gets lost through the trees in that transaction. You make an ad or you make something that goes out to people and it says, oh, like I I like here like it's an ad basically that tries to appeal to everyone and loses it and does it to no one. So for that reason, I think you should always niche down. It kind of gets worse than that too, because we see people like Jimmy, we see people like Mr. Beast. We say, man, we want to be like that, right? Like I want to get that many YouTube subscribers. But Jimmy makes content that is quite literally accessible to almost every human being on Earth, right? And that's his mission. So generally speaking, there's only one of him, right? But there's many people who can fulfill lots of other niches. And so for that reason, I always recommend that on the reach question, you go a couple of layers down and you try to access a smaller pool of engaged users on a topic. Okay, so the first thing we have to target is reach. That's the first relevant thing. Okay, the second thing I want to look at when I'm looking at like a really successful post, okay, is controversy. Did this drive controversy? And I'm going to point out, and I'm going to link this in the Patreon notes, but over here is I just love this study. I've read it a bunch of times, and I encourage you all to read it. It's super helpful to understand like the psychology and some of the kind of things I'm talking about. It was published in the Journal of Marketing Research, and it is a analysis of I think 7,000 posts and articles, and it kind of like goes through what drives the virality of these things. Okay, and a huge part of it is the emotion that it evokes. So the first emotion that I'm interested in is disagreement and controversy. So for example, I really like the concept of like in a TikTok or an Instagram post, you misspell a word. I was just talking to somebody about this. You misspell a word and you can like double or triple your engagement. So like, you know how you watch all those TikToks and there's the text and then the text is misspelled. That's actually deliberate in many different cases because you'll get so many comments to say, "Oh, you're so stupid, you misspelled this." But that drives controversy, right? That's a very base example of controversy. Another really easy example of controversy is political controversy, red versus blue in America, right? So all I have to say is something like the woke left X or the extremist right X, and then I can drive controversy. Now, you want to be careful, right? Because I immediately might have made you feel a tinge uncomfortable. And if I did that, that's because in marketing, driving too much controversy can put you in a certain position that you then have to kind of work your way through. Now, it might not be bad, but controversy works. And if you're extreme enough, you will always get attention. The lowest hanging fruit for attention and virality is controversy, straight up. And if you go to every one of those YouTube creators that is creating drama and building on that, they have no marketing knowledge except to say the thing that is the most offensive and the most outrageous to most people, right? That's controversial marketing. Now, I use controversial marketing, but I do it in a way, hopefully, that keeps my professionalism in a certain light. And I tend to attack companies and platforms. Like I'm happy to attack Twitch kind of endlessly for mistakes that they might make, while also championing the things that they do that are right, because it's easier for me to attack a corporate entity than a person. But as soon as I attack a person, now all of a sudden, I think that reduces your credibility if you're going to be an expert. But there are a lot of experts that also engage in controversy, and that's the second thing that I'll look for. So if you're looking at your post and you saw that it was successful, the first thing you want to think about is reach. The second thing you want to think about is controversy. And now we're going to talk about a little bit of what we just covered in the Journal for Professional Marketing, in this article that I mentioned, and that is emotional evocation. It doesn't have to sound so cool, but I just think evocation is like an awesome, let's say you're like a wizard, just like sending emotions at people. It's just awesome, okay? Emotional evocation means what are you making someone feel with your post, ad, video, whatever. What are you making somebody feel, right? So if you look at this study, and I encourage everybody to read this that wants to understand marketing to better, which is all of you, right? So you will find that content, generally speaking, that is negative, that evokes emotions like anxiety, that evokes things like fear, is going to work better in terms of virality and sharing than it will if it's positive. But and you might know that. You might know that intuitively. You might have read that somewhere. A lot of that, the conclusions that, like, you'll read some article that says negative marketing works better. That's basically from this study. This is the base research. What a lot of people don't get right is that positive emotion also evokes that kind of stuff. And indeed, marketing in general is fueled by the emotion that you give people. So things like amusement, joy, excitement are underutilized, especially in this era. And there's a pendulum there. And maybe one of the most important things I tell you in this video is, in fact, if you just make a brand on feel good, you will still succeed really and really do well, especially because so many marketers have now descended into the pit of fear, right? So if I link you an article about COVID's potential neurological effects and how dangerous they can be, and you read it and you're like, well, shit, right? But that evokes anxiety and fear in you. I've succeeded in that viral sense, but I could also succeed by sending you an article that's like, hey, we're on the up and up. People are getting vaccinated. It's great, right? And then that joy is like people are getting back, or like maybe let me even go a little bit more extreme with that. I send you like a feel good article about somebody that like overcame it and is living like a great life now, right? Like that feel good thing is, I think, a more valuable currency right now. It's an up-and-coming currency, okay? I think it's going to become a more valuable currency in a world that's increasingly being negative. So let's go back to the question, since I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here. We're talking about, what are you making someone feel with your post, ad, video, or whatever? So what are you making them feel? Most unsuccessful content fails because it doesn't evoke an emotion in someone. And you want to evoke an emotion in someone no matter what you do. You don't have to use controversy to evoke an emotion, but you do have to have an idea of the psychology of the impression you want to make to evoke that emotion. And I think the most effective emotions in order are fear, negative emotions first, anxiety, uncertainty, depression, positive emotions, amusement number one. That's why comedians are so successful. Joy, uplifting news. Okay, that's like the two like negative, positive things that I would put into emotional evocation. So think about when analyzing a post or when making a new one, why did this work? And like look at like how you felt and how you think that post makes people feel. Okay, in terms of like what makes it shareable. And the next one is understanding. How easy is it for me to understand and pick up this concept? So you can look at like a creator on Twitter, like Vitalik.eth, who is the founder of Ethereum. He posts incredibly complex ideas about infrastructure cryptocurrency. And to a certain audience, remember we talked about reach, that's super cool and they engage with him. But in terms of understanding, most people will not understand that, so most of his stuff will never go viral. To use a more at-home example, I tend to get really good engagement on my posts when I make them compared to the number of followers that I have. So if I make a post, I usually get pretty good engagement. This is just like the threads, but this is the main thread here, right? I usually get very good engagement. Why? Because I follow these concepts, but within my circle, the understanding is high. It requires a very high IQ to listen to Devin Nash. Okay, so more seriously, right? Just requires that you are interested in the particular topics that I cover. But knowing that, like, I'm not looking 26,000 likes on something is great, but I'm not looking for 200,000 like the Affleck image, right? That's not who I need to hit. So for me, this is about as good as it gets in terms of how niche I am, which is fine. Like that's a huge success to me. And I want that if this changes your viewpoint on virality, I think that virality is a really misunderstood term in marketing. People think virality means it goes out to the most people possible. But what successful virality really is really that it goes to the most amount of the right people. So give me a room full of 150 decision makers at major brands that control budgets of more than $5 million a quarter, 150 of those people, or give me every single person on Twitch, and I would choose the room of marketers every time. Because I have much more upside of interacting with those people and convincing them that I'm the person that they should do business with. In exactly the same way, you have a group and a demographic of people that is going to be your force multiplier for your business. Think about who that is. Age, where they hang out, what they do, what their expendable income is, where they live, not in terms of physically, but in terms of on the internet. Are they on Twitter? Are they on Facebook groups? Where are they? Once you identify that, now you understand that successful virality is not the most people reached, it's the right people reached. Once you understand that, how easy is it for those people to understand the concept that you are giving to them? Is it simple? So, for example, when I made this post, with 100,000 subs, Kai Cenat will lose $1,071,000 just from Twitch's sub split changes. Super easy to understand. Even though I provide this is just the beginning of the thread. I provide a bunch of graphs and some information on it later. But right there, pretty easy to understand. So very easy to understand. Controversial. Creators like Kai are the most innovative in the game and deserve to be fairly rewarded for it. A lot of people don't think Kai is innovative. They think he's just like a react streamer or whatever. So there's the controversy there. Reach, already discussed, but I kept it in mind for all the people that are interested in Twitch news. Emotional evocation. I want people to be upset. This is a negatively driven tweet. I want people to be upset at Twitch because they are not giving Kai a fair share of the split. Understanding. I think everybody can understand that access to. And that's why it's a successful post. So that basically answers Noctopus's question. Bonus round. Let's see if there is some other stuff that you can keep in mind. This is something I have never, ever heard anybody talk about in terms of marketing, and that is speed. So speed is how fast did this post or video or whatever pick up? And what do I mean by pick up? I mean, did 20,000 people like this immediately and then nobody did? Or 6 months later when I was doing a YouTube video, did it succeed and just blow up? So let me show you what I mean. Let's go to my YouTube channel real quick. And we'll sort by most viewed stuff. So go here. Can you even do this anymore? They keep changing this interface. Popular. The most successful video on this channel is a video about how view bots work on Twitch. 3 years ago. For the first 8 months of this video had 8,000 views. Then it went up 200K in a year, and then it went up 300K in the next year. Pretty interesting, right? So this video is what I would call evergreen. Evergreen means this is a topic which stands the test of time and will be interesting for years. Immediate or short term might be news, media, the latest, or just something like really funny that hits. But there will be videos that are made and topics that are posted that will come back later and be very powerful. So one of the things you want to look at when you're making content or when you're making an ad is, do I think this is something that meets these needs, but also is going to take a while to become relevant? Because what ended up happening, the story behind this video, to finish that thought, is I believe Lyric was view-botted accidentally by Reddit. There was like a bunch of posts and ads that accidentally had Lyric in them, and they just like literally view-botted his stream, and he had like 50,000 viewers for a couple of weeks. And so everybody started searching why that was the case and happened to find my video years after I had made it. And I'm going to give you another example on a very old channel of mine. This is probably one of the funniest examples I have of this. Okay, so I used to have a channel that made all kinds of like random videos, and it's a channel called Malixia, which is my old gaming name. Probably not even a lot of people even know now. The most popular video on this channel, you can see that the next most successful video 8 years ago had 12,000 views, but this video has 195,000 views. And it's called Beating Path of the Damned on Pillars of Eternity, Best Classes and Techniques. And I just made a little guide that is super lame, and it was made years and years ago. Now, keep in mind I have 2K subscribers. That's just about some of the best ways to beat Path of Damn Pose Eternity. Now, I have comments that were made 3 months ago on this video because this ended up being an evergreen video. Before I really understood much about marketing, this video ended up being the guide that people went to in order to figure out how to beat Path of the Damned on Pillars of Eternity. Now, I don't even know really how to do that. I mean, I can't even remember if I did. But apparently, I think I knew what I was talking about, so I made this video. Cool, right? With like my classic editing skills. That's a perfect example of an evergreen video, a video that lasts years later and generates more views. That is why I think that the idea of making an ad or an impression on somebody is so cool, because you could potentially pick it up years later. And this is another one of the reasons why I think YouTube is the most powerful communication platform out there, because YouTube literally can just make videos successful. Like every video that I add to the Devin Nash channel is a video that could potentially be one of those evergreen videos. And I think I just found one. If you look at like one of my recent videos, Why No One Watches Your Content, this video already has 74,000 views, which is a huge number of views compared to the videos that I'm making about other things. And this video probably works because that is a evergreen thing. That is always going to become relevant to content creators. It's also edited better. There's a lot of reasons, but that's along the topic of this video. This video matches all of these checkboxes, right? It reaches a lot of people who are content creators. It drives a lot of controversy because nobody's watching your content, negative emotion. It evokes an emotion in a lot of people because a lot of people that have 14 subscribers are pissed and like, why doesn't anybody get it? And anybody watch my stuff? It's easy to understand, which is that it's just why no one watches your content, and it's and the speed appears to be very fast. So it remains to be seen, as it was posted a month ago, is this going to be successful going forward? And the topic is evergreen, right? And so this will become relevant as YouTube evolves, right? Whereas a topic like esports CEO reveals truth behind Ocelot leaving G2, this video is done, right? I don't really expect this video to do anything later, but Twitch can't afford to pay its streamers might do something later when there's invariably more news that Twitch can't afford to pay its streamers. Kind of interesting, right? So you can, I hope that this paints a picture and adequately answers Noctopus's question about some of the concept that you can use to look at a post and look at a video or look at an ad you're trying to make and determine how that ad or that video ought be successful. And if this was helpful, leave a comment, let me know. Thank you, everybody, and I will see you again next time. Bye.